Good morning, 5 a.m. Happy Tuesday. Well, this is our last WOD of the week for Battle of the Horns. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on some of the movements today because we have time to warm up, be able to practice some of the fundamentals, because we're just doing one workout that's 8 minutes long, and you have the opportunity to kind of work some of the kinks out and practice specifically for the WOD without doing an EMOM and then doing a workout. So we're going to go a little bit more detail oriented. So we're going to start with 7 minutes of cardio. We want to make sure that heart rate's up. We want to make sure that your body's nice and warm. It is important that your cardio is at least moderately difficult. If it's so easy that you're just chilling the whole time, you're not really going to get much out of that when you jump into the workout. But if you get your heart rate up enough that you start to lose your breath and then kind of settle into that pacing, that's going to benefit you a lot when you jump into a workout that's only 8 minutes long. After you do that, we got 5 reps of the standing split stretch walk. So widen your feet out. You're going to go from one side to the other, back and forth, until you've done 5 and 5. Then you're going to do 10 ring rows. So grab those rings, lean back, row. You want to put a nice squeeze in there. Make sure those shoulder blades are moving. Then we're going to hang from the rig. So hands shoulder width, slightly wider. And then you're going to grab a barbell and work on RDLs, which is a Romanian deadlift. We want to prime those hamstrings by driving your hips back. Good stretch, head and chest up. Squeeze the glutes, flex them and stand up. Stretch. This is going to come into play when we start working on that push jerk. Getting those hamstrings and glutes, the posterior chain active. The workout today is just an 8-minute AMRAP. So over the 5 weeks of workouts I've designed for Tuesdays, I wanted to give us tests in a variety of different ways. So we did a chipper. We did a high rep buy-in with something heavy. We did high skill. We've done a lot of gymnastics. We've done a little bit of everything, so that by the time we finish 5 weeks, we've tested all varieties of fitness: endurance, strength, skills, range of motion, pacing. Today is your classic 8-minute workout. So this is what we do the most often. So the way this one goes, you've got 8 minutes to do 6 push jerk, 12 Russian kettlebell swings, and 24 double unders. Weights are 135, 95 RX. It's 185, 125 for the comp. And it's also a 70, 53 for the kettlebell. For the burn, I actually forgot what I made that. 85, 55. So this is just a little bit lower than our normal standard RX, but it's also only 6 reps. And this is meant to push us. Much like I was telling Josh this morning, I was slightly proud of myself for doing comp yesterday because I despise wall balls. And I went ahead and did comp, which I did not enjoy. But much like I designed this to push you guys to go a little bit farther, it also pushed me to go a little bit farther. I've done a lot in the last 4.5 weeks to push myself at either a faster pace or a heavier weight or a higher skill or more reps. And I've benefited from it, just like I'm sure some of you guys have. I'm also tired, just like I'm sure some of you guys are, because we're coming down to the end of that 5 weeks. But we're not done yet, so we got one more big push to go. On the burn, you've got push jerk, you've got Russian swings, but you have 24 singles instead of doubles. So this is one of those workouts where you're going to have your own little station. You got your bar, you got your kettlebell, you got your jump rope, and you're going to stay in your own little bubble. So we're not moving around a whole lot. So you've got to figure out how to pace yourself, because there's no natural transition in walking from one piece to the other. You're right next to everything. So what I wanted to show you guys today is, this is a video showing a progression on how to work into being better or understanding the push jerk. The push jerk is a double dip and then stand up. So this is a good way to kind of visualize how you get to the push jerk. You just jump and land with a little bit of squat. Jump and land, little squat. Then you do the same thing with your hands at the shoulders. Then you do the same thing, you jump and you punch into the air as you go to land. It's the same thing with a barbell. It's as if you're trying to jump with that bar on your shoulders, and as you start to come off the ground, you punch and land in this little quarter squat. That is the jerk. Now this is important for us to understand because it's a push jerk, that means it's a double dip by rule. And if you don't double dip, then it doesn't count. And the reason is, if we're competing for how many rounds we can get in 8 minutes, and you just push press, that means you've done one dip. You're saving yourself a movement, which is going to save you a little bit of time on every single rep, and that is an unfair advantage if we're competing with each other. Now, for the sake of just moving weight, the push jerk is the strongest of the overhead movements. So it's one of those things that once you learn how to push jerk, you usually choose push jerk over a push press or a shoulder press. But anyway, so the way this works, it's basically a jump and then you land in a dip. So you're landing with your knees bent and your hips bent. And then you stand it up to finish it. And that's also important because that's where a lot of people take no reps, is they either dip once, which is a push press, not a push jerk, or they dip twice, but they bring the bar down before they stand all the way up. You've got to be able to stand all the way up as if someone was going to take your picture at the end with your arms locked, knees locked, hips locked, everything locked, fully standing. So if you're bringing that down as you're standing up, that's a no rep. And if someone took your picture, they'd get your picture like this, right? Everything's got to be locked after that double dip, and then you stand up to finish. On the Russian kettlebell swing, it's a much easier concept because all you're doing is swinging from between the legs up to shoulder height. So you want to get that somewhere up to the collarbone or right at your face. We're trying to get your arms parallel to the ground. And it is good practice to try to keep your head and chest up. If you look down, in general, this applies every time you pick anything up. If you look down, you're normally going to round your spine. You're going to lose power. You're going to drift forward onto your toes. You're going to lose efficiency. You're going to fatigue quicker. So keeping your head and chest up is really important. And then jump rope's jump rope. If it's double unders, it passes under your feet twice every time you jump. And if it's singles, it's just once. Any questions on any of that? Pretty basic today. All right, well, let's warm up. We got 7 minutes of cardio. See if we can get ourselves woke up. And then let's get our old bodies going.